Right. While we wait for Viramon, I'd like to welcome the audience and welcome everybody back to the the sixth episode of Tech Talks. Thank you for coming, everybody. Just to recap from the last episode, we were joined by Isabel Bulger. Who managed to get an internship in Microsoft. She talked about her skill sets, what she learned, and the experiences she had to get to where she is, and um, she told us a few things and had us connect with her. A lot of us, to be honest. And it was a good talk overall. She was very energetic and all. And we are joined today by Mathew Chanda. Matthew, thank you for coming. Would you please introduce yourself to us, if you don't mind?
What's up, guys? My name is Matthew. I'm a computer science major at NC State. I'm actually about to start my co-op with LexisNexis in the fall. I'll be working with the deployment team.
Cool, cool. All right. Let's just wait a bit because I think he's coming in.
Hello,
But
hello guys.
oh, there, he's in. He's in. Miramon
Hello,
is in.
hello, hello. Sorry I'm late.
Uh,
I had some technical issues, but hello everyone. Hello Matthew. It's great to see you.
hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm
Great to
doing
see you
great.
too. Doing
Yeah,
good pretty well.
hope you're
All
doing
right.
well. All right, take it away, Hans.
All right. I mean, Matthew's already introduced himself to us, so yeah, let's start. All right. So Matthew, you are a computer science major in NC State, as you said. Um, Tell us more about your experience as a software engineer. How did you develop your skills? Like, you just started a internship in LexisNexis, right? Tell us more about that. How did you get here, and what did you do to get here?
All right, so I'm gonna tell you this. I actually don't have as much coding experience as a lot of these people. I started coding in like senior year of high school in AP Computer Science, and I fell in love with just how like coding works, break down a big problem into sub problems. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna major in computer science. So fall semester coming around, I was like, I see people getting like interviews, and I was like, all right, I want to get an interview. So first thing I did, I talked to a bunch of people in computer science, get to know recruiters, and also like talking with a lot of people on LinkedIn, you know. And the thing I did something like kind of wrong is actually focus too much on school. It's good to have a high GPA, but you don't need like a 4.0 to get into these like big tech companies or like these like internships. Like I would say like as long as you have a higher than a 3.0, I think that's fine, and have like a few like extracurriculars. A lot of recruiters like to see extracurriculars on your like resume. Um, some extracurriculars that I did aero robotics, app development, tech at NC State, which is like a big like club for like getting people into these really big like tech companies. And also what I did too is also work on side projects. So if you don't have like no like internships or no like prior experience, the way to build up your experience is just to do side projects. You don't have to make something like really, really big. Like it can be as small as like making like a small like guessing game or like a small like card game, you know, on like your phone or something like that. And then after that spring semester, I started applying to many like companies. I put about like 500 like application, I would say. Um, Even though I got a lot of like rejections and ghosting, I got about a few like interviews with like big companies like Facebook, Coinbase, Quora, to name a few. Oh, Chegg. So, but I unfortunately didn't get those interviews because I was like didn't have enough experience. But I reached out to a recruiter from LexisNexis on LinkedIn, and she got me through to the next part of the interview and finally an offer letter. So yeah.
Mm,
Cool.
That's, that's interesting. So you've mentioned working on different little projects, side projects. Could you share us like the favorite project you've worked on?
Okay, cool. So one project that I actually really like enjoyed and put on my resume was a project where we use great distribution and rate my professor reviews. So at my college, we have actually the grade distribution for every class and every professor. And you know, when registration comes for like setting up for classes and all that, it's really hard to like look at like so many different resources. It took maybe for me it took about 6 to 7, 8 hours to like see if like my schedule is like a pretty good schedule with good teachers and nothing like really hard. You know, so we developed a web application that compiles all the resources that you would need to register for classes in one convenient place. And currently, we announced it on our LinkedIn's and Reddit, and now we're getting about 1.6 thousand users and about almost 3,000 page views. The whole application is built on React, Flask, and MongoDB, and Bootstrap and Material UI. So yeah.
All right, that sounds really cool. And like Bootstrap and React. The way you utilize Bootstrap is like makes it easy to use, right? That's because I've had experience with Bootstrap, and usually because I really can't front end for shit, to be honest. So what I do is I usually use Bootstrap to make everything look cool with basic ass HTML. So yeah, I like to hear that people actually still use Bootstrap no matter how simple it is. Um, in that regard, you have some startups, right?
Yeah, so the project that I mentioned, that's actually a startup called PackRanks. And right now we're looking to either expand out to other colleges or to build on with adding more members to our dev team.
Okay, that's cool. In that regard, tell us more about your struggles with startups, because I know a lot of people who want to start a startup because it's a very interesting thing to do nowadays. It's a trend. People are more into it. So tell us more about that. Tell us about the struggles. Tell us about how you did it, and your experiences in general.
I think the hardest thing is with startups is like people are not used to like failing. Once you get comfortable with failing, it's not as bad. It's still pretty hard. Don't get me wrong, but once you get used to failing and like overcoming those failures, you kind of look at past failures and be like, Psh, it's pretty easy. It's nothing like what I'm doing now. Second thing is, I think another thing we struggle a lot with is learning new technologies. This is the first time that our team actually made something this big. Usually we made something like really small, like a small like Python library or like a small game, but we never made something this big. So it was quite overwhelming at times. But however, taking our time out of our nights doing alternators, it paid off.
Nice. That's nice to hear. Remember
So,
that for us.
since you've worked in startups and all, you've done all these, you've experienced all these. So, I guess it would be great to ask advice from you, especially for those people who are doing startups or planning to do startups. Like, what advice would you give to them?
I guess make sure there's value in your product because you don't want to waste so much time on like a feature that no one's going to use. When we was doing beta testing, we noticed a lot of features not being utilized, and other features that we thought that wasn't going to be a thing, or like actually like user want. It actually was the thing that the user wants. So make sure like to ask like users like, oh, would you like this feature or do you want to see something else? To like make sure you have make sure like you use your time wisely.
Okay. Well, I guess that's how you use startups properly. Because I know a lot of people, they like I said, like they want to start a startup. They have ideas, but they just don't know how to make it happen. They don't know how to. That's like the spark to make it go. Like the impact,
Yeah,
like to make it happen. They're trying to figure
yeah,
that
and
out and
yeah,
do that.
yeah,
And
actually, the same. Yeah,
yeah, go.
I, thi-
I go.
I think one oh sorry. What were you trying to say something? I heard something, so
Oh, no, it's okay.
hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think one thing too also is planning, like planning and designing. Because I thought like you can kind of BS like planning and like design and all that, but really I felt like this project was actually a big success is because we took maybe 2 or 3 weeks developing like a design and the layout of how everything should work. So like don't sleep on like design and like planning, because like if you don't design and plan, I'm guaranteed your project's probably gonna fall apart, or your startup's never gonna start up.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's true. Like being organized and being able to plan what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's really important. So,
Uh,
um, so going back to what you said earlier about the, you know, being applying to about 500 applications and, you know, being getting a lot of rejections. Uh, how were you able to overcome all these rejections? How did you deal with those?
Well, what's the question again? I couldn't hear what you said. You
Um,
were kind of breaking up.
so I was asking about the uh, you applied over 500 applications in different companies and you received a lot of rejections from that. So how did you deal with those? How did you overcome all those rejections?
You know, as as the like more rejections come in, I use that as kind of like a motivator, saying like, "Oh, this company didn't want me. It's all right. I try a different way." You know. In addition to that, you know, in the end, I believe like it's too hard to like get every job offer. You know, that's quite impossible because there's so many people. Like the recruiters might just not see your application. So like I always think on the positive side, like what possibly could happen beside a lack of experience. So I always think positively about it.
well, that's
Uh,
something.
it's really, you know, about developing mindset, having that positive mindset to, you know, overcome those rejections.
Oh yeah.
And in terms of rejection, like, is that what motivates you better? Because personally, when I get rejected, it kind of makes you sad and stuff, right? Makes a lot of people sad. But is that what mainly motivates you, like, to get better, or is there something else?
I think for sure like when I see other people getting interviews and I'm not getting interviews, it just pushed me to like try even more. You know, a lot of people have that mindset. It's like, oh, I got rejected. I'm not good enough. You know, just stop thinking negatively. Think more positive. You got to keep pushing, and eventually, everything's gonna happen. Everything's coming to you.
All right. That is a good mindset. And I'd like to ask about your work ethic because all people, it's a lot of people, their mindset and their work ethic go hand in hand. And sometimes, when their mindset is a certain thing, their work ethic doesn't bleed well. Like they might have a good mindset, but the work ethic isn't necessarily good, or vice versa. So how do you balance this? Because it's a great thing to be able to have a good mindset and a very strong work ethic. So how do you make this happen?
Can you like kind of repeat the question again? I was kind of a bit confused on what you were like kind of asking.
Sorry. Okay. Some people, they have a good mindset to do this and that, to be able to want to succeed, and they do, but they don't necessarily have the work ethic to do it. Sometimes vice versa also. Sometimes they don't really have the mindset to succeed, but they work hard. So my question to you for you is that how do you balance this to be able to do both of them at once? Like, how do you have a good mindset and a good work ethic?
I think partly it's partly because of where I grew up. A lot of people from where I'm at, they want to settle for like one particular thing, and I know myself that I don't want to settle to have a 9 to 5 job. I want to go beyond that. I want to go make experience happen. All right, I want to change the world in some way. You know, I felt like that's my like reason to be here on Earth. So that's the reason why I kind of have that mindset. And also the work ethic is, you know, for me to get up there, I have to put the time and effort into like all my studies, all my projects, all my networking to at least to at least get up there. The work ethic is more like like a tool, and your mindset is the reason why it's like kind of pathway. That's like the way to explain it. I don't know how to explain it correctly though. I felt like it's like an answer that like you can't like say like it's like everyone's answer to this question. Like no one can have like the same thing as like me in a way. So it's like you kind of have to find it yourself.
That makes total sense. Veerman, what you got for us?
Yeah. So yeah, I really like your answer about you know being motivated because you want to change the world. Yeah, I actually want to have the development that kind of mindset for me myself. And I've been it's actually really nice thing to think about. So we got questions coming from some of the audience. We got one here from Matt Day. So what can you advise those struggling uh, what project to make? Like maybe he's asking about like if you don't know what project to make, what advice would you give to those people?
Um. So I felt like I asked this question before to other people, and they gave me the pretty much the same answer. So like my answer might seem a little bit generic, but it's pretty straightforward. But it's to solve a problem, a problem that you encounter every single day, or a problem that someone else might have. So it doesn't. These projects doesn't have to be like something really crazy, but it could be like something where it's really simple. Like for instance, alarm app. Boom. I oversleep all the time, and I need to like figure out a way to wake myself up. That's a simple problem that we can all solve with an app where make a little bit alarm app, and then boom, we solve an issue, and you get experience from that too.
Yeah.
Next question. How do you keep yourself motivated, especially in days where you struggle on the project? Really good question. So what I do is look back on the past experiences throughout the project, and when I see like, oh, I did this and that, I can't give up. I worked too hard to be here. If I give up now, all the time that I spent beforehand would be a waste of time. So just look at your past experience and remember, like, oh, I came here, I can't give up, I don't want to waste any more time. Next question is, what would you say and give you that edge to get to where you are now? I would say project networking. Projects. A lot of the projects that I worked on is also with friends. So like I also network through those projects. Second thing is also I had a decent GPA, so like I had like a 3.95. So like recruiters could tell like I'm pretty decently smart, have a good work ethic. Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. There a question here. What would you recommend working for a startup or to corporate? I haven't officially worked for corporate yet, so I can't really answer that question. So, um, yeah. Hello Matthew. Good day. How do you start working on the system design architecture? What's your mindset when developing the said design? That's how you. That's how you. Wait. Then how do you pick which part of the design comes first in development? Thank you. So we use this application called Adobe XD to like do our system designs, show like mock-ups and how everything should look. It's really easy if you like work with Adobe Photoshop. Next question: what's your mindset when developing the said design? Uh, that's a bit ambiguous. I'm kind of confused on the question itself. And then how do you pick which part of the design comes first in development? Let's see. We just start somewhere. What can you recommend to high school students who are interested in computer science? Try out those courses on Udemy, um, Audacity. Also, CS50 is a really good place to start like coding, and also try to do AP Computer Science. You learn a shit ton of like concepts, not only the basic concept of Java, but also object-oriented programming. Next thing is any tips for resume or portfolio building to stand out among all applications. I would say don't make your resume like too flashy. So I heard from like recruiters like they don't really like something really flashy. They only have like a few like seconds to skim through it. So make sure everything is like you can read from left to right. So don't have like all your content on like one side of the page, right? There's like one content that's like talking about your experience, and then when you look to the right, it's talking about your side project. So like when you skim through your resume, make sure from left to right it's still the same content.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Coding
Yep.
to stand.
If anybody else got any questions, feel free to open your mic, your video cameras, and ask Matthew all the way. Or if you guys want to type anything else in the chat box, please do. Please do.
Also, I'm gonna put in the chat my LinkedIn. So like my LinkedIn's open for like for like messaging. Connect with me. I wouldn't mind like having like a Zoom call. Pretty like easygoing, pretty easy to like get hold of. So usually I'm on my laptop for like 8-9 hours, so it's pretty easy to get hold of me. So
Thanks. Thank you.
so
Thanks, Matthew.
no problem.
Anybody else want to ask a question?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're saying thank you.
Thank
Alright.
you guys for having me.
Thank you. All right. So, I don't think we'll be able. Anybody else want to ask a question? Final call.
Yep. Open your
Type
mics,
it in the
guys.
chat box. Yeah, or open it in your mics. Come on.
Come on, guys.
Don't be shy.
There's no dumb questions, guys. There's no dumb questions. Trust me. Trust me. If you have that question in your mind, think it's dumb, someone else probably have the same question. Don't be. One thing I do want to say is like when you work with these like other people on projects, don't be afraid to ask for help, because those people that you're working with on a project, they're meant to help you on the way. They don't want to see you struggle.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, because like before I used to be like really like, oh, I don't want to ask questions because like, oh, I don't want to seem dumb. But like in reality, you will look dumb if you don't ask questions. It's better to ask questions now. Do you have any interview tips for interviews? One thing I would say is to practice. I would say like my first like interview, I thought I could BS it. No, I couldn't BS it. I didn't know what to say. Fun fact, I actually said "oh shit" out loud in the mic. So like I was like, oh, like that's a good start to this interview. So one thing I would say, find some people that you're comfortable with to like answer like interview questions. Also, be there like make sure like you research the company so like you know what's gonna happen. Like for my position at LexisNexis, I spent almost 2 days researching about the company and what they're doing. It would really impress the hiring manager and the HR lady. So make sure you take some time to research about the company. Good question. Additional question, if I may again. Oh,
I have a question. Will you be working from home for LexisNexis?
so I don't know. As of right now, I talked with my HR lady back in May, and they say they're doing remote. But where I'm at now, the situation with the whole coronavirus is getting a little bit better. So there's a good chance that I'm gonna like be working at the job site. I actually prefer to work at the job site than remote. Oh, that's the one.
I think somebody forgot to mute your mics.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of.
No.
Hello?
Somebody asking a question. Hello.
Hello?
Hey,
Hi,
Oh,
hello,
hey, hi.
hello, Maria.
how are you?
Uh, we're
Hello.
great. We're great. You have a question?
What?
Do you have a question for us?
You have a question for Matthew?
Yes,
Go ahead. Ask away.
I am Brazilian.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Uh, um, you, do you,
Hey, do you want to ask
do you have,
Matthew a
do you
question?
want to say it?
Do you have a question that you need asking?
What? Repeat, please.
Do you have a
Do
question you'd
you
like to
have
ask
a
Matthew?
question?
No,
Okay, okay.
Alright.
Okay. So Matthew, what were you saying?
a live é sobre o quê, gente?
What was it? Did you say something?
Speak Portuguese.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No?
can't speak Portuguese.
I can't speak Portuguese.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry.
Alright, alright.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Um, what was it? We're talking about remote versus
Yeah.
like on site. Yeah, I prefer to be on site because you know, it's better to have like that interpersonal like connection with the people around your team. I felt like it's kind of hard to like kind of solve like technical problems not in person. That's also a thing that we also struggle in the projects like in the summer. It's like it was kind of hard to like be there and do like peer programming. It's like, oh, you missed this, or like, oh, okay, this is the reason why it doesn't work, because like it's kind of hard to like not see the problem unless you're like in person. But like later on, we figure out like you could do like screen recording, so like it was a little bit better doing pair programming. Second thing is, I think it's easier to ask questions in person, where you're like, yo, you can walk down to the desk and be like, hey, this is not working. Do you have any ideas? But with like remote, it's like, oh, we've got to find time to like meet up, which is pretty hard
That's true.
sometimes.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to set things up since who knows who could be preoccupied at a certain time, right? It's weird. And speaking of, you have school stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like org work, like co-curricular activities? How do you deal with that, like at home?
What was the question again? Sorry, you were like breaking up.
Um, you have co-curricular activities right at school,
Yeah.
from the orgs and stuff. How do you deal with that here at home? You know.
At home, I think it's a little bit harder to like, you know, do the extracurriculars, but like certainly it's not impossible. We usually jump on Zoom, you know, we just talk about like, oh, we have issues, this and that. In addition to that, like we can always like FaceTime, Zoom call, you know, there's pretty easy ways to like, you know, still see each other.
Yeah.
Even though like it's not the same, but like at least we're having that social interaction, which like in networking that what like a lot of these extracurriculars are for.
Mm, I see. I see. I see. Do we have any more questions? Did anybody ask?
Kevin did ask a question, and Mika, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my.
so, what would you advise someone who has no passion in coding but's already graduating computer science? I would say that's a very good question. That's actually kind of hard for me to answer because I'm pretty passionate about coding. Um, let's see, let's see. I would say look into other fields that require computer science, like any programming, and see if you're interested in those fields. Because computer science is pretty flexible. You can work pretty much in any like field. So like look into those fields where it might require computer programming skills, and maybe eventually you can work your way into like a different like position. But like this question, I really can't answer because like I'm pretty passionate about coding. Additional question from Kevin: If I may again, since most jobs right now is work from home, how do you keep yourself focused in your tasks since working at home feel comfortable and the temptation to laze around is quite high? One thing I would say, I said earlier in the 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 whole video call, it was to find a place in your house that doesn't seem like really comfortable, like where you can call it, oh, this is like my workstation. Only thing you do is work, do your work there, homework, projects, that one particular place. I think a lot of people make a mistake of making their workplace their like place where they like to relax, and they tend to relax and like laze off. Also, have kind of like a 2 hour like kind of have like small breaks, like a small 15 breaks every 2 hours. I would say that's what I do. Every 2 hours, I take a 15-minute break. You try to do work like 5-6 hours straight. I know some people can do that, but like I feel like that's not efficient enough. So like you start burning out. You guys have any other questions? Feel free to say in the chat. You can say in the mic. If you guys don't feel you don't want to like publicly say your questions, feel free to like message me. And yeah. You guys have any other questions?
Last call for questions, guys. Oh,
Yeah. Hey, I have a question, Matthew.
Go ahead.
You have you ever you say you're passionate about coding, so you have experience in competitive programmings and hackathons.
Do I have experience in hackathons and competitive programming?
So can you share us how was it like there, and the things you could pick up from there?
I actually never did competitive programming before, but there's actually a course on that I'm looking to take in the future to see how it is. But hackathon, I could say about a few things about hackathons. I think it's pretty fun just to code 24 hours straight with your friends. I felt like those hackathons is not only helping you build up experience, but also like I found it another place to network for like recruiters and even meet some cool people. In addition to that, like that's partly how like my first project, Pack Ranks, the project I was like talking about before, actually became a thing. Because we originally had like a mobile app version, like a really like dumbed down version of like Pack Ranks on a mobile app. It was like, you know what? Let's try to make it a web app, like a more like full-fledged like web app. So like sometimes these like small projects and hackathons might become your next project in the future, your next big project.
Yeah, yeah,
all right.
yeah. I know a lot of people get intimidated in joining these competitions because they think they're not good enough and all.
True. I myself, I'm kind of intimidated by these because I'm not necessarily the best coder as well. So there's that. So yeah. All right. I guess let's conclude. We have a few final questions for you. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started your career?
I wish I start programming at an earlier age, because like I always knew that I wanted like do something in tech, but like I was too lazy to like actually like go more in depth into like tech. Like there's like kids that like started programming in freshman year, and they're like going to like these big like tech companies. So I wish I did a little bit more programming back then. Second thing is too, I wish I didn't focus too much on school. I think my first like fall semester, I focused a little bit too much on school. I would say like this: it's okay to have a tiny dip in your GPA, like point two. Like honestly, like an A minus and an A. I would take an A minus with a project versus an A. Personally, I don't know about you guys, but like I think it's okay to have a tiny bit of a dip of your GPA to have like a better experience in college and like gain more experience in like coding.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's something.
Mhm. So, Matthew, in your situation right now, in your current status, what do you want to learn, and what do you think you still need to learn in order to advance your career?
My thing is that I struggle a lot with is learning new technologies really fast. It usually for me it takes about a whole week to get used to it. But like I feel like the way that like I'm learning these new technologies are not the best ways to learn it. So like that's something I'm still trying to like work on, and yeah, that's about it to be honest.
Cool. All right, and our final question for today. Uh, what question would you have asked yourself in this interview? What question would you have asked yourself in this interview if you were one of us in the audience?
I didn't hear like the question. Sorry, like you're
What?
breaking up.
All right, what question would you have asked yourself if you were part of the audience today?
Ask how would you start networking with people? Like how would you like go up to someone and be like, "Hey, this is not my name's Matthew." But like to that answer of like how to network, I felt like a lot of these people that try to network seem kind of like a robot because like like when you go to like a career fair, it's like you got to give them your elevator pitch and be like, my name's Matthew. I'm a first year in computer science, and I did this A, B, and C. I feel like that's scripted, and it's like these recruiters, they're not. I feel like they're not technical enough to understand it. Number one, and number two, they just want to like have a normal conversation. Like they're talking to all these like computer science majors, and they're like, this is like hella boring. They're not going to be as interested in you if you just like say like the same thing as everyone else. So yeah.
All right, all right. I guess if nobody else has any more questions, thank you, Matthew, for coming today to.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for this conversation. Everyone, last words.
Yeah. So Matthew, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Coming here at Tech Talks, we really appreciate. We're actually enjoying this conversation with you.
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
really, you know, my cat is making some noise. And, but anyway, it's really great that you shared with us your experiences and knowledge, and giving a boost of confidence for those people that struggle and think they're not good enough. That they can, they just have to change their mindset and work harder. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
helping people inspire.
like nothing is impossible. Like I see people that thought there was like, they're not gonna make it. They made it. So certainly don't put yourself down. I promise you this: you're probably better than you think. Um, Second thing is the more you put yourself down, the lower you're lowering your chances of getting into that particular thing. So so you should have enough confidence, but not too much confidence where you seem cocky in a way. So yeah, but thank you for having me on this chat. I really enjoyed having a conversation with the
Absolutely.
whole audience and you. If you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm gonna post my LinkedIn one more time. I'm not sure if you guys saw it in the chat, but I'm gonna just post it again. Uh, you can send me a message on LinkedIn or email me if you didn't get your answer question. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
You,
much for this interview.
You guys can also follow our social media accounts. You could also find Matthew's LinkedIn profile. We tag him in our post in LinkedIn, so you guys can also check that out. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All
Thanks
right.
again,
Cool.
Matthew, for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out and do some work. So see you
Thank you.
guys.
Good luck.
All
Good
right.
luck. Good
Good
luck.
luck with
Thank
your
you.
work.
Goodbye.
Good luck.
Goodbye.
Everything.